You go to Will.
So, two questions, if I may. On the Bradleys, I understand that most of the details are going to come out tomorrow, but is it possible to say at this point how they're going to be armed? Will they have the 25 millimeter cannon, the toast, all that, or?
Yeah. So, Will, at the risk of getting ahead of the announcement, we'll provide more details later on that. Again, I can say broadly speaking, this will be an armed capability that will be able to carry mechanized infantry into battle and, again, afford protection on the battlefield under combat conditions.
And the second question, has the U.S. noticed retracting kind of buildup of Russian forces in Belarus? And if so, is that a threat of a potential new front in the war?
So, we continue to monitor Belarus very closely. At this time, again, without getting into specific intelligence, it's our assessment that there are no indications that right now that will be or that the Russians are intending to use that as another front. But again, we'll continue to monitor that very closely, as I know the Ukrainians are as well. Thanks. Carla.
Thanks. Just to follow up on Russian President Vladimir Putin's call for a ceasefire, what does this building think about that Orthodox Christmas ceasefire? Is it a credible call? Do you see any indications that they are going to honor that and that they will potentially extend it?
Yeah. Well, we've certainly seen the press reports, and we'll see. Understandably, I think that there's significant skepticism, both here in the U.S. and around the world right now, given Russia's long track record of propaganda, disinformation, and its relentless attacks against Ukrainian cities and civilians. So, of course, from our perspective, if Russia was truly interested in ceasing the violence and the bloodshed that they have brought to Ukraine's people, they would pull out of Ukraine immediately and end this war altogether right now. But it appears that will not be the case, so our focus will continue to be on supporting Ukraine with its security assistance needs as they fight to defend their country.
Thanks. And when you say skepticism, is there skepticism that they won't honor it, or is it skepticism that they will use that to reinforce their troops and to build up, or is it a little bit of both?
I'll just say that, while Russia seems to be pretty good at exporting violence, they don't seem to be pretty good at exporting the truth. And so we'll see. Thank you. All right. See, Matt.
Thanks, Pat. One more question on the Bradleys. U.S. officials in the past have cited potential logistical challenges that might come with providing advanced armored capabilities. Is there something that has changed, or does this announcement indicate that the U.S. is at least quite confident that the Ukrainians will be able to make use of these and sustain them in the field and be able to project the fuel and other things necessary to keep them in the fight at this point?
Sure. Well, we've said all along that we're going to continue to work closely with Ukraine and our international allies and partners to discuss Ukraine's needs as the situation on the battlefield evolves. And we've also been clear that we're going to continue to adapt to the challenge and keep all options on the table, both in the near, medium, and long term when it comes to Ukraine's defense. And so as I mentioned to Lita, operations and maintenance are aspects that will be incorporated into providing the Ukrainians with this capability. They are significant aspects of considering any type of weapon system or equipment that we give to Ukraine. And so in the case of the Bradleys, as I mentioned, that will be something that we do and support. And again, we'll have more details in the coming days on that.
Is the timing significant? Is this being decided on now because it's deemed that it'll be particularly helpful in the winter or anything like that?
Well, again, as you look at the battlefield and you look at how this fight has evolved from the early days, of the artillery barrages to air defense to largely being static along that front line, providing this capability provides both an offensive and a defensive capability to the Ukrainians to be able to change the equation on the battlefield. And so we are going to continue to talk closely with them about what they need. We're going to continue to look at the situation on the ground and do what we can do that's going to help them the most to defend their nation. Thanks. Sure.
A White House statement this afternoon said that Germany was going to donate an additional Patriot system to Ukraine. Should we be looking for, or is there an anticipation that there'll be additional Patriot systems from either the U.S. or other allies going to Ukraine in the near future?
Yeah, we certainly welcome that news. Again, the United States, and as evidenced by Germany's announcement, are all committed to providing Ukraine with air defense capabilities that are going to help them protect their population, protect their forces as they defend against Russia. In terms of any additional Patriots, I don't have anything to announce right now. Again, we'll continue to have those discussions. As you know, we've already provided and will continue to provide a significant amount of air defense capability to Ukraine. And as far as other countries go, we'll let them make those announcements on their own. Thank you, sir.
Can you give us an overview of U.S. training, maintenance, sustainment, help to the Ukrainians for their weapons system? How many U.S. troops are involved? How many facilities in Europe? Is it just Grafenwohr? Are there other places? How many Ukrainians are we training? And do you expect an increase in U.S. presence to help train the Ukrainians on the Bradleys?
Yeah, so there's a lot there. So let me try to break it down as best I can for you. So on the U.S. side, as you know, prior to our announcement last month, our training focus since the invasion has been on providing training for equipment and the specific equipment and the systems that we provided to the Ukrainians. And so on that front, we've trained approximately 3,100 Ukrainians so far since April. Writ large, when you look at the international effort to train Ukrainian forces, I would estimate about 12,000 across, internationally when it comes to training Ukraine on a variety of things, to include collective training in other countries. So break now with the U.S. Stepping up its combined arms and joint maneuver training, which will begin this month, likely in a couple of weeks in Germany. We will train approximately 500 Ukrainian forces at the battalion level each month. So again, we'll continue to keep you updated as that program develops. But that is going to provide them with advanced training. Again, training that we had been providing before the invasion that we had to stop doing because of the invasion. But this will give them enhanced capability to operate at the battalion level in combined arms, which again will give them an advantage on the battlefield.
Great, thank you. And if I could just follow up, I had a couple questions about the naming commission. Is the Pentagon confident that it can meet that deadline? You have less than a year now to rename these bases like Bragg and these other properties, and can be more complicated than what it first appears. And secondly, is there a cost figure associated with the entirety of renaming all of this stuff? Does DoD have its own figure? Excuse me.
Thanks, Travis. So we will come back to you on the total cost. I don't have that in front of me here. Let me just check. Yeah, I don't have that in front of me here. So we'll come back to you on that. In terms of the confidence, yes, I think we are confident. Each of the services has clear instructions in terms of what it is that they need to focus on, and where the Secretary is confident that the services are and will continue to take that seriously. So as things progress, certainly I would encourage you to maintain contact with the individual branches, and certainly we'll do our best to keep you updated as well. Thank you.
Thanks, General. Ukrainian defense officials have been really raising the point for months that if the United States sent tanks, other heavy armor, allies like Germany likely would follow suit. Now we see the Bradley announcement, and in short order we see Germany and France announce similar systems, or at least complementary systems, also going. Can you speak at all, flesh out a bit the the larger puzzle here in terms of how these systems work together, how these systems are likely to kind of form a larger constellation that'll assist the effort?
Sure. I think, bigger picture, as you've looked at this campaign continue to evolve, and you've heard Secretary Austin talk about this, the leadership role that the United States has played in helping to work closely with NATO and our international allies and our partners on looking at what Ukraine's needs are, looking at how we can best support as an international community, and doing that in a way that is more comprehensive and more integrated, vice just individual pieces and parts being provided. And so the Ukraine Defense Contact Group has played an important role in that regard, which brings nearly 50 nations together on a near monthly basis to look at Ukraine's needs, to figure out what are the most urgent needs in the near term, but then also, as I mentioned, discuss in the medium to long term. And so all of this at the end of the day, when we're talking about the Ukrainian armed forces, comes back to, in addition to the air defense aspect, but also the combined arms capability to be employed on the battlefield. So integrating ground and air capabilities to not only defend, but also to take back territory.
I think a logical follow-up question that a lot of our readers have is what took so long? Not to put too fine of a point on it, but can you explain a bit like what the inflection point is here in terms of why now when this has been sort of a standing request for months?
Yeah, well, I think if you go back, I mean, understandably, if you look at the requests, we're going to continue to work closely with Ukraine on the situation, based on the situation on the ground, what are the most urgent needs, and what can we as the United States and the international community get to them. Things like the Bradleys, things like the Patriot, which are complex systems, are going to require a training and an operations tail. And so I think, clearly we're at a point in this battle where we're going to be able to provide that kind of training to enable Ukraine to sustain those kinds of systems so that they can focus on defending their country and taking back territory. Early in this campaign, when Russia was on the doorstep of Kyiv, a much different situation. Things like long-term sustainment and logistics would be a much more complex undertaking. And so, again, we're talking about sovereign decisions by individual countries around the world coming together to support Ukraine and making those decisions, but we're doing it in a way that is unified and coordinated to give Ukraine the best chance possible of defending their homeland. Thank you very much.